The Oculus Rift is one of the best VR headsets ever made. Even in 2020, I still think it stands the test of time, and I'm going to compare it to every other VR headset, or every other mainline one, to show you why I do personally believe the Rift, well, not the greatest, is definitely up there. Let's start it off with the Oculus Rift versus the Oculus Quest. First up is visuals. The Quest has a better resolution screen and better lenses, which does look better than the Rift. However, they are both OLED, and LCD is usually better for VR, as seen with other headsets like the Valve Index and the Oculus Rift S. The difference isn't that noticeable, but it is there, and you can definitely see it. Next up is tracking. The Rift uses 3 sensors if you're using it how you should be, and the Quest uses inside-out tracking using 4 cameras on the front of the headset. This means if the controllers are occluded in any way, such as behind your back, a piece of clothing, or any of the above, then you will lose tracking. However, it does a really good job of compensating by making it so when the Quest loses tracking, it uses predictive movements and 3 degrees of freedom. The Rift doesn't have to worry about this. The biggest tracking issue the Rift has is if you swing too hard, you'll see it be a little slow and kind of late behind. But by too hard, I mean you gotta really swing like your life is depending on it, which no one really does. I play Beat Saber at a pretty high level, and even then, that it's never really been an issue. It'll occur every now and then, but it never has affected my actual gameplay. This is also, we're just going to count the Quest as using Oculus Link, because standalone, the Rift is just plain out better because you get better games, so we're going to pretend like we're connected to a PC here. The Quest only runs at 72 Hz while the Rift runs at 90. Now, there's a lot of people who say, for example, 80 Hz and 90 Hz, not that big of a deal. And they're right. 80 Hz, 90 Hz, not that big of a deal. The Quest runs at 72 Hz, and it's noticeable. I played Beat Saber on standalone mode, and because connected to a PC, it runs worse, actually. So I played it on standalone mode, and then I tried it on the Rift. I did, exceptionally better on the Rift than I did on the Quest. There were some songs that I would, do at a really high level that I straight up just couldn't do on Quest because 72 Hz did not come fast enough for me to keep up with the notes. So all in all, so far the Rift is better, but even then there's more stuff to go into, like audio, which is better on the Rift, and the controllers are better on the Rift despite being very similar. So if you were to ask me, connected to a PC, the Rift is definitely better than the Quest. Next up is the Rift S versus the Rift. The Rift S also uses inside-out tracking, however it has 5 cameras and is a noticeable improvement over the Quest. Rift S tracking is exceptional. It's very good. However, Rift tracking is just better because outside-in tracking is just external tracking is just better than inside-out. However, I'm actually going to say that the tracking part does not matter, because no matter what you are doing in VR, the Rift S and the Rift will both pretty much have equal tracking. Next up is audio, and the Rift S's audio is a joke. So the Rift definitely wins here for having really good audio. It has the same controllers as the Quest, so the Rift again wins here because it has slightly better controllers. However, this does mean buying replacements, mean you'll have to buy them pre-owned, or you buy a refurbished right controller, because Oculus doesn't sell a left one. Why? And finally, visuals. This is the big one. The Rift S's visuals are noticeably better than the Rift's. Screen door effect, I could not notice. However, I must say this, there is no IPD slider on the Rift S, meaning literally only 50% of humans can actually use the Rift S. So if you're one of those few who can't, then that headset is a no-go for you. However, this is the main reason I can't recommend you buy the Rift S. Reliability. The Rift S is notoriously bad at staying alive. I had 2 Rift S's in a year, and both of them had robot mic and pretty much every Rift S issue you can imagine. Robot mic not working, random disconnects. I get my Rift, and the biggest issue I've had is the right earphone stopped working, which Oculus were so kind and gave me a refurbished one for free. A right audio not working is nowhere near as bad as a headset that randomly disconnects or a microphone that makes everyone be ear raped. All in all, I will, even over the Rift S, say the Rift is the better option, and 90 Hz, it's nice. Not to mention the Rift is in most cases cheaper than the Rift S, especially since at the moment, due to every headset being sold out, they are upcharged for around $100 or $200 more than they should be, while the Rift is seemingly remaining the same price since they're all pre-owned. Next up is the Rift versus the HTC Vive, and honestly this one comes down to personal preference. The HTC Vive and the Oculus Rift both use external sensors. However, the tracking on the HTC Vive is noticeable improvement over the Rift. The HTC Vive also gives you the ability to upgrade in the future without having to buy new sensors and pretty much a whole new kit. With the Rift, you will need a replacement of everything. A new headset, the new controllers, and I'd say new sensors, but pretty much every Oculus headset uses inside-out tracking now, so it doesn't really... However, the HTC Vive has worse controllers, but if you're willing to upgrade them in the future to the knuckle controllers, then it can be better than the Rift. However, audio and microphone are not as good as the Rift, especially since the HTC Vive requires you to use your own headphones, unless you buy a Vive Deluxe audio strap, which is another upgrade that just adds to the cost. All in all, it comes down to personal preference. Do you want a pretty good experience right now, or a slightly worse than optimal experience, but an exceedingly better one in the future? It comes down to what you prefer and your budget. Next up is the Rift versus the HTC Vive Cosmos. The HTC Vive Cosmos is a joke and the sensors can't track. On to the next one. The Oculus Rift versus the HTC Vive Cosmos Elite. This uses lighthouse sensors, but is like a house. What? Is it my read? There's no way that. What? Okay, so this piece of shit costs $900, and if you're willing to spend $900, you might as well save $100 to buy the Valve Index. The Oculus Rift versus the Valve Index. Now, in pretty much every single way, the Valve Index is a better headset. In some ways, not by a lot. For example, they both have pretty good audio, except the Index audio is like way better. They both have a really good microphone, except the Index microphone is way better. They both have really good controllers, except the Index controllers are better. They both have a pretty good screen, etc., etc., etc. However, the price is what makes the Rift not win. I wouldn't say win, but for most people, win. The Oculus Rift, if you're buying it, which it'll probably cost you like $400 if you want your third sensor, which you will. But the Valve Index is $1,000. The Valve Index is the better headset, but not everyone has $1,000 to spend on a VR headset. So in my opinion, if you are on a budget, go for the Rift. If not, Valve Index.